talk about you a little bit. First of all, thank you for coming on the Workplace
welcome.
Theater. It's our leadership series, and
Yeah.
obviously are a dope leader. I got a chance to know you the past 10-ish years, maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And so it's been a joy to see you kind of grow up through the ranks at
Thank you.
Advanced and come into your own within the DE&I space.
I like that.
But really trying to understand how people get to connect better with people, right? Regardless of the race, the religion, the nationality. So kudos to
Absolutely.
you for staying true to what you believe is fighting for the rights of people.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell people a little bit more about you and kind of what the work is you do. And
Yeah, so what I do really is head our DEI initiatives program at Advanced Group and Social Impact. So really what that means is, we've started employee resource groups, training about all types of diversity. When I talk about diversity, I say diversity is all. So talking about more than just race, religion, we talk about everything like neurodiversity, personality diversity, all types of training in this diversity space. But also in my role, we give to the community. So community giving, well-being, an internship program we work with. So it's a lot that's under that umbrella.
love it, love it. So this is our leadership series. So is there like a book or a podcast or anything that kind of has brought about some of your leadership skills or points to a specific leadership principle?
There's so many. One book that in the last couple of years that I really recommend is it's called We Can't Talk About That at Work, or We Can't Talk About This at Work, but it's a really great book that lets you know how to really have these brave conversations, but really getting on the same page to have these brave conversations at work, right? Because at work is that space where we can't really talk about everything, but this book really like lays out a plan to get there, right? Get out of that uncomfort to start having conversations. And not that you have to agree with everyone, right? But you have to have these brave conversations so you understand people, because it's all about people, right?
Yeah, love it. Definitely about people, and there's always going to be challenges and disagreements, but how do you even through that take that emotion, bottle it up, and then let it come out with good energy in a productive way?
Yeah, that's important. Come out in a good, productive way.
Absolutely. So with the changing work landscape, there's a lot of leaders kind of dealing with, I think, different challenges. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges, though, that you think leaders are facing in building a great team?
I think there's two that I can think of. One is that our landscape is changing, right? It's becoming more diverse. And diverse means culturally diverse, different backgrounds are coming into the workplace. So I think the challenge is really making sure you include everyone, creating a mission that focuses on inclusion of all ages, all backgrounds, all cultures. If you're a global organization, you need to think about what's happening, in Europe, the UK, etc., right? Even in the United States, different cultures from coast to coast, right? And so I think that's one thing we have to understand. And also the landscape of remote work. That's a difference that we're seeing over the last couple of years, and understanding how to build relationships in a remote or hybrid environment, how to engage employees without being in the office,
Yeah.
That's really hard because, you can't build relationships, or we think we can't build relationships if we're not sitting side by side. But there are ways that we can build those relationships. But we have to just think about it and plan for it, right? Because we're moving in different directions,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So you mentioned a great piece about keeping people engaged in like this hybrid state of mind, and even some people going back to fully in person now, people combating that a little bit, right?
Yes.
So what are some things that either you do or that you've seen done to really keep teams engaged these days, like maybe even unorthodox things?
Well, I think you have to be very flexible and maintain like communication, adaptability, because there are people fully in the office, there are people fully remote, hybrid, all of it. So you have to just think about what's that communication piece. That's huge, right? To keep people engaged. So I would say, things like communicating more often, right? And, making sure we focus on people, because people are different, right? When we say diverse, that means different. So something that is important to you may not be important to the next person. So really understanding how to communicate with everyone in a different way. So, and being able to be flexible in that, I say, because you don't want to do everything the same way for everyone, right? So you have to be flexible and adapt with the times, right? Because next year we may be back to fully remote. Who knows? But just being agile to, work within those spaces.
Yeah. I think some people, like you said, you don't blanket how you communicate to everyone. I think some people forget that like technology is changing people's mindsets. Like some people may not communicate well. Like, why didn't you just text me that? Like, why did you need to set up a meeting to do all that? And some people may need that meeting because the meeting brings together some sort of connection. So I think it's important, both for like Gen Z to understand there's reasons, but then also for us elders to understand too, like that they may be thinking differently, and people at large think differently. So.
They do. And people want to be rewarded differently, right? Because something you just said, some people want to be rewarded by a big splash, right? So I want everyone to know I did well. Where other people say, well, no, don't put me out there like that, right? You can reward me by maybe giving me kudos behind the scenes or giving me a gift card here and there, but I don't want a big splash. So knowing your employees, right? That's important with being a leader, is knowing which person needs what. And I'm a strong believer in celebrating even small wins with your employees, like along the way, like celebrating your employees, because a lot of times we may celebrate something really big. The company may say, fill in the blank, X is big. Like we closed a deal or we have a new client. That's big. Let's celebrate it. But celebrate those little wins along the way, right? And I think that's really important to our employees. And being a leader, you have to do those things. May not want to all the time, but taking the time to celebrate your employees.
It's about the people, not the work.
It's about
the work
the people.
will get done if you take care of the people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
What is like a leadership principle that has like guided you, or one, if you could just pick one?
I would say really being open and transparent is one. There's probably a few, but I'll focus on that right now, because you have to, as a leader, be transparent. Sometimes we want to hold things to ourselves, but you have to be open and honest and willing to share with your employees and really admit your mistakes. Like that's something that I've had to come into, is admitting when you're wrong. Right. Because as leaders, you don't want to say to your staff, oh, I messed up. I made a mistake. Because as a leader, you want to seem like you know all. But your employees will trust you more if you step back and say, I'm a humble person. I admit that I was wrong. I made a mistake, but I'm not staying in that mistake. I've learned from it, and now I'm going to move forward. And that's something that guides me, and that builds trust. That builds, better relationships with your employees. But you have to stay humble. So that open and transparency is something that really guides me.
Being in integrity, being able to know when you're not right about everything.
Yeah.
But
It's hard. Trust me, it's hard for me to admit that, but you have to do that. And it's not like you do it all the time, like every day. Oh, I was wrong, right? Because you want your employees.
You hope you're right most of the time.
You hope you're right most of the time. And you want your employees to see you as the leader, right? But that relationship that is the thread throughout this conversation is by building that trust. And no one likes someone who's never wrong, right? So
100%. Awesome. So if there was just kind of one principle that you think as leaders shift, we're into 2025 now, a lot of kind of landscapes are shifting. What is one principle that you think more leaders should focus on?
I think leaders should focus on, when you're leading a team, look at people's strengths more than you look at people's weaknesses. So I say 2025, this is an old principle. It's not something new. There's a book. You asked me about a book earlier. This is, I think it was like 2000, 2001, when Gallup wrote this book about strengths. It's called Strength Finders. And you have to focus on people's strengths more than their weaknesses. Because as leaders, sometimes you say, oh, this is what's wrong with my employee, so I'm going to try to fix that piece, right? And then you focus so much on what they're doing wrong, right? Instead of really focusing on what are their strengths. Because if you look at people's strengths and apply them and have them apply their strengths to their work, they can be more productive, more engaged, happier employees, because you're looking at something that they're good at. And again, this isn't new. It's just we still need to shift back to it. I think we were there once, we went away from it, went back to what's easy for us. But I think if we go back to celebrating your strengths, right? What do you do well? Now let's use those things to make you successful in your career. Let's not focus on those weaknesses. And trust me, if you have a weakness, you want to make it stronger. But if you focus too much in the weakness area, that's really discouraging for employees. It lowers morale. They want to leave your company. You may want them to leave your company, right? But or your team. But if you focus more on the strengths, that builds their confidence for them to be better employees. And that's all we really want. Better employees, more productivity, engagement, communication, all of that. But focus on those strengths.
Love it. And for you employees out there, that doesn't mean that you don't have no weaknesses. It means let's put a focus on those strengths, but let's acknowledge the weaknesses. And I think you mentioned a lot of training and stuff that you all do. I'm sure that is to kind of hone in on some of those weaknesses too. But we got to think about life and the positivity that we want to be envisioning for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Love it. Anything else that you want to leave to maybe any leader out there going through change right now, maybe struggling with a team, like any kind of words of wisdom?
I would say stay the course, right? And be ready to pivot as needed, but stay the course, because the course, it's like this, right? But stick with it, right? Because at the end, and if you're a leader listening to this, I know we've all had those moments where we just want to give up. But if you stay the course, there's success on the other side. So I just say, stay the course, build those relationships, keep open and honest conversations with your team, and, build that so that, once you get past whatever that hump is in that course or curve, then you'll come out successful.
Awesome. Dynamic conversation. Amazing insight. Where can people find you? I know you kind of do some blogging, do a little posting on LinkedIn. Where can people find you?
Please find me on LinkedIn is the best way. I love messages from, other leaders, other employees, peers, colleagues in my LinkedIn box. Victoria Hill, I'm with Advanced Group. Please connect with me.
She's a great speaker too, you all. So if you're looking for someone to come out and speak, she's been doing great work in the corporate space around this much needed topic. Like how do we engage our people? All facets of it, D&I, neurodiversity, mental health, it's all wrapped into how do people feel when they come into work. So just thank you for sharing wonderful insight. Looking forward to having you again at some point in another one of our series.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to seeing you tuning in on our next segment. Appreciate you. Again, check us out, Workplace Theater on all platforms.